The hidden psychology behind tantrums, most parents misread. Picture this. You're in the cereal aisle of a grocery store. Everything is fine. Your cart is neat. Your list is organized. You remembered the reusable bags this time. Life is good. And then, your child notices that you put the wrong brand of crackers in the cart. Not the ones with the fish on the box, the other ones. The ones that are, objectively, exactly the same crackers in a slightly different package. And suddenly, as if the universe itself has tipped over, your child collapses. Not falls, collapses. Like a building being demolished in slow motion. There are tears, there is wailing. There is a level of grief being expressed that most adults reserve for funerals. People are staring. You are staring. You briefly consider pretending this child belongs to someone else. Welcome to the tantrum. One of parenting's most exhausting, confusing, and deeply misunderstood experiences. And here's the thing. Most of us, when it happens, respond to it exactly the wrong way. Not because we're bad parents, not because we don't care, but because nobody ever told us what was actually happening inside that tiny, screaming person. Today, that changes. First, let's talk about the brain. Specifically, let's talk about a part of your child's brain called the prefrontal cortex. This is the part responsible for logic, self-control, planning, and the ability to think things like, yes, I am upset about the crackers, but I can express that calmly. Here's the thing about the prefrontal cortex. It doesn't fully develop until a person is in their mid-20s. Mid-20s. So when your 4-year-old has a full emotional breakdown over the crackers, they are not being dramatic. They are not being manipulative. They are literally working with a brain that does not yet have the hardware to do what you're asking it to do. It's like expecting a flip phone to run a 4K video. The phone isn't being difficult. The phone just doesn't have the processor for that yet. Your child is not broken. Your child is not a problem. Your child is a person whose brain is still under construction, and the construction is going to take a while. What's actually happening during a tantrum? Let's slow this down, because what looks like chaos from the outside is actually a very specific thing happening on the inside. When a child gets overwhelmed, really overwhelmed, their brain essentially switches over to emergency mode. The thinking, reasoning part goes quiet, and the survival, emotional part takes over completely. Scientists sometimes call this flipping the lid. The lid flips, the rational brain goes offline, and what you're left with is pure, unfiltered emotional experience. No filter, no context, no sense of proportion, just the feeling, enormous and consuming and completely real. This is important, so let's say it again. The emotion is completely real. It doesn't matter that it's about crackers. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense to you. From inside your child's experience, in that moment, this is the worst thing that has ever happened. Their brain has no mechanism yet to say, let's put this in perspective. Perspective requires a prefrontal cortex, which is still under construction. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because most parenting responses to tantrums, even well-meaning, loving, completely understandable responses, accidentally make the whole thing worse. And that's what we need to talk about. The responses that backfire. Let's walk through the greatest hits. Stop crying. There's nothing to cry about. Classic. Well-intentioned. Completely counterproductive. Because here's what the child hears. Your feelings are wrong. Not, your reaction is a bit much. Not, let's find a better way to handle this. But, what you are feeling right now should not exist. And over time, through repetition, children who hear this start to believe it. They don't stop having the feelings, they just stop showing them. Which sounds like progress, but is actually the opposite. Because a feeling that's suppressed doesn't disappear. It just goes underground. And underground feelings have a way of coming back up at the worst possible moments, 10 years later, in a very different kind of meltdown. If you don't stop, we're leaving. This one is popular, and it works in the short term. The child stops. Crisis averted. You feel like a genius. But what the child has actually learned is, if I feel something, I will be removed from the situation, which creates a lovely little association between emotion and punishment. Not the lesson we were going for. You're okay, you're fine. Said by parents who genuinely mean well and genuinely love their children. But look at the structure of this sentence. You are making a factual claim about your child's internal experience, and your child knows, with absolute certainty, that the claim is false. They are not okay. They are not fine. That is the entire point of what is happening right now. So when you say you're fine to a child who is not fine, you are accidentally teaching them not to trust what you say. None of these responses come from a bad place. They come from a completely understandable place. Emotional outbursts are uncomfortable. They're inconvenient. Sometimes they're embarrassing. The instinct to make them stop as quickly as possible is not a character flaw. It's just human. But the goal we actually want, a child who can handle emotions well, requires a completely different approach. What emotions actually need? Here's a metaphor that might help. Think about a wave. If you stand in the ocean and try to stop a wave, push against it, fight it, hold it back, what happens? You get knocked over, every time. But if you let the wave come, if you ride it, move with it, let it pass through, it peaks, and then it breaks, and then it's gone. Emotions work the same way. They need to move through. They need to be felt, acknowledged, and processed. And when they are, they pass. When they're blocked, they build. Your child cannot learn to regulate their emotions by having their emotions shut down. They learn to regulate their emotions by having an adult help them move through those emotions safely, over and over again, until the process becomes familiar enough that they can start doing it themselves. That's it. That's the whole secret. Not magic, not complicated, just being present for the feeling instead of fighting against it. The science behind this, and why it actually makes sense. There's a concept in developmental psychology called co-regulation. It's a long word for a simple idea. Children can't regulate their own emotions yet, so they borrow the regulation from the adults around them. When you stay calm during your child's storm, your calm actually reaches them. Not immediately, not perfectly, but neurologically, physically, genuinely, your nervous system helps stabilize theirs. There's a reason babies stop crying when you pick them up. It's not just comfort, it's regulation, borrowed from you. On the flip side, when the adult in the room escalates, raises their voice, gets tense, gets frustrated, the child's nervous system picks that up too. And what was already a 5 on the intensity scale suddenly becomes an 8. Because now there are two dysregulated people in the room, and nobody is available to borrow calm from. This doesn't mean you have to be a robot. It doesn't mean you can never get frustrated. It just means that the most powerful thing you can do in an emotional moment is stay a little bit steadier than your child. Not perfect, not emotionless, just slightly steadier. That's enough. That matters enormously. What to actually do? Okay, practical time. Your child is in the middle of a meltdown. Here's what actually helps. Step 1. Get on their level. Physically. Get down, crouch, sit. Don't loom over them. You're not here to dominate the situation. You're here to enter it with them. This one small thing changes the entire energy of the interaction. Step 2. Name what you see. Not stop crying. Not there's nothing to be upset about. Just name it. You're really upset right now. That really bothered you. You're feeling frustrated. This is called labeling, and it does something almost magical. When you name a feeling, the brain's emotional intensity actually starts to come down. There's research on this, actual neuroscience. Naming the feeling moves it from the emotional part of the brain toward the reasoning part. It gives the chaos a shape, and something with a shape is something that can be worked with. Step 3. Don't rush to fix it. This one's hard. Because the instinct, always, is to make it better, to solve the problem, to remove the discomfort. But sitting with the discomfort instead of rushing past it is actually where the growth happens. It's the difference between a parent who hands a child a bandage before they've even cried yet, and a parent who says, "That hurt, didn't it? I see that." One solves the surface, the other builds something deeper. Step 4. Hold the boundary separately from the emotion. This is the part that confuses most people, because it sounds like, "You're saying I should just let them throw the tantrum and get what they want." No, absolutely not. The feeling gets acknowledged. The behavior still has limits. These are two different conversations that can happen at the same time. You can say, "I hear that you're really upset about the crackers. That makes sense, and we're still not getting those crackers today." Both things are true. You are not choosing between compassion and boundaries. You are doing both at once. That's actually the whole point. Why this feels hard and why that's normal. Let's be honest about something. Everything described above is extremely difficult to do in the moment, because you are also a human, with your own nervous system, with your own history with emotions, with your own exhaustion, stress, hunger, and everything else happening in your life. And your child's emotional explosion lands right in the middle of all of that. A lot of adults were raised by parents who used the "stop crying" method, who grew up learning that big emotions were inconvenient, embarrassing, to be controlled, and those lessons live inside you. So when your child has a meltdown, it doesn't just trigger parental instinct, it also triggers something older, something learned, something that says emotions equals dangerous, uncomfortable, something to stop. This is not a character flaw, this is just what got passed down. And the incredible, meaningful, difficult work of doing things differently starts with noticing that. You can't unlearn it in a day, but you can become aware of it, and awareness is where change begins. The long game. Here's what most parenting advice misses. The tantrum is not the point. The tantrum is a moment. What matters is the pattern, across months, across years, of how those moments are handled. No single interaction determines who your child becomes. No single bad day, no single lost temper, no single missed moment of connection undoes everything else. Children are not that fragile, and parents are not that powerful, for better or for worse. What does matter is the overall environment, the emotional weather of the home. Over time, is this a place where feelings are welcomed? Where it's safe to be upset? Where meltdowns are met with steadiness rather than punishment? Where the message, again and again, imperfectly but consistently, is "your feelings are allowed here"? Because children who grow up with that message, they don't become children who never have big emotions. They become children who know what to do with big emotions. And that's a completely different thing. They cry, and then they settle. They get angry, and then they come back. They get overwhelmed, and they reach out for help, rather than hiding it, suppressing it, or expressing it sideways in ways that are harder to see. And as they grow, that foundation doesn't disappear. It goes with them. Into classrooms, into friendships, into relationships, into the moments, years from now, when life hands them something genuinely hard and they have the emotional vocabulary to move through it. Not because they never struggle, but because they know how to struggle well. A quick word on perfection. None of this requires you to be perfect. Let that land for a second. Because the anxiety that parenting articles often produce, including ones like this one, is, "I'm already doing it wrong. I said stop crying last Tuesday. I've ruined everything." You haven't. Research consistently shows that what matters in parenting is not perfection. It's what researchers call rupture and repair. You get it wrong. You apologize. You reconnect. You try again. That cycle, imperfect but honest, is itself an emotional education. Your child watches you make a mistake and come back from it. And they learn. Mistakes don't end things. You can come back from things. That's a lesson no textbook can teach. So the goal is not to become the emotionally perfect parent who never snaps, never escalates, never says, "just stop crying" in the cereal aisle. The goal is to become a little more curious, a little more willing to pause before reacting, a little more able to ask, "What is this child trying to tell me?" Most of the time, the answer is simple. "I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to handle this. I need you." The part nobody talks about. Here's something worth saying quietly. How a child learns to relate to their emotions. They often learn by watching you, not from what you teach, from what you do. How you handle your own frustration, how you talk about your own stress. Whether in your house, it's okay to say, "I'm feeling overwhelmed right now." Whether emotions are named or buried. Whether adults model regulation or just demand it. Children are watching, not to judge, not to document. Just because you are the most important person in their world and they are taking notes on how the world works. The parent who says, out loud, "I'm getting frustrated, I need to take a breath," and then does, is teaching something profound. Not just that it's okay to get frustrated, but that there's a thing you can do about it, that feelings are manageable, that you don't have to be consumed by them, that emotions are information, not identity. That's the real curriculum. And it doesn't require a textbook. It just requires showing up, imperfectly and honestly, and doing the work. So, back to the cereal aisle. There you are, wrong crackers, child on the floor, people staring. Here's what you know now that you didn't know before. Your child's brain is not equipped yet to handle this disappointment the way an adult would. The feeling, as absurd as the situation seems, is real. Dismissing it will bury it. Fighting it will escalate it. But if you get down to their level, name what you see, stay a little steadier than the storm, something shifts. Not immediately, not every time, but over time, consistently. The storms get shorter, the recovery gets faster. The child learns, gradually, from the inside out, that emotions are things you move through, not things that move you. And you? You get to be the person who helped build that. Not by being perfect, not by never losing your patience, but by staying curious, staying present, choosing connection over control, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The crackers, by the way, still not worth it. But the moment is always worth something.